New South Wales Education Department has endorsed learning plans which ask students to deconstruct Australian symbols, including the national flag and the national anthem, in the name of anti-racism. Has been met with fury from Federal Education Minister Alan Tudge, who said the flag should be respected, not torn down. For their reaction, I'm joined by my political panel tonight from Cessnock, soon to retire Labor MP Joel Fitzgibbon, and from Brisbane, former Queensland Premier, hopefully getting back in the Parliament, Campbell Newman. That's a bit of a swap between you two. So how does this stuff make it through to the keeper, Campbell?
Well, I don't know, Peter, and frankly, you've got a New South Wales government which is supposedly Liberal. You've got a federal education minister from the coalition, and this sort of the angst that's we're now hearing is because basically the Liberal Party has gone woke and they're not in control either at federal or at state level of what's going on in the bureaucracies beneath them. And by the way, when I was Premier, we tried to get a very tight control over the administration. One area I'll confess to that we should have done more on was education. The culture wars are important. This Prime Minister doesn't believe that's the case, but this is what happens when you just let it be run by remote control by the bureaucracy.
I couldn't agree more with that. Joel, big news from you yesterday. You were absolutely everywhere. The news today that the shooters and fishers are not going to run a candidate in your seat, which presumably leaves Labor, the Nationals, One Nation as main contenders. Give me the sense, how's it going to play out in your seat? And I'm interested, I've got to ask you too, this Christina Keneally-Fowler thing, wouldn't she be where she is now on the Northern Beaches, closer to running in your seat than Fowler? Why doesn't she give Hunter a run?
Yeah, well, thanks for the offer of support, Peter. But I've got a whole heap of local branch members here, each of which would make excellent members for Hunter. We'll go through the party process to determine who that person might be, but we are fortunate to have a number of good candidates. Look, I would never take the electorate for granted. I'm not complacent about it, but I do believe we can be confident about Hunter. We suffered a huge protest vote last time, and I should say rightly so, but I think we have demonstrated that we've learned from our mistakes. Anthony Albanese has been very clear, for example, about his support for the resources sector, including the coal mining industry. And on that basis, if we stick to that narrative and we focus during the election campaign on the things that really matter to local families, that is the health and safety of their family, the economic security of their family, and their aspirations for their family, in particular their children, then we will do okay.
Well, you're spot on, but your boss, Anthony Albanese, isn't. I mean, yesterday he was out there saying he wants to make climate change a hallmark of the ANZUS alliance with the US. I mean, Campbell, I fell off my chair, I reckon, when I saw that. China's threatening war against Taiwan, and we've got the Indo-Pacific in a lot of trouble. And the alternative Prime Minister wants to sit down and have a chinwag with Biden over climate change. God help us, I don't know how that works.
Well, I guess he's taking the cues, though, from the US President, who probably sees this in the same context. It's what a crazy world we're in. And the really important thing here now is we've actually got to build up our defences, and we've got to take greater responsibility for ourselves and having a really solid deterrent. Some of the things the government's done in the last year or announced are critically important, like for example, the long-range sort of missile program, if I can call it that. But we've got to accelerate things like the subs program as well. We can't rely on the United States necessarily when you've got those sort of things coming out of Washington. But as to this thing about climate change, we had the last election about climate change, and clearly the focus of Australians right now is on jobs and the real economy after this terrible pandemic.
Joel, I've got to ask you about, I mean, you've been in Parliament for 25 years, so you've seen the ebbs and flows of discourse and how we debate issues, or we get to the point now we don't debate them, we just cancel them. A lot of debate about how social media has changed politics in this country. ABC journalist Lee Sales, she's had a real go at left-wing, not right-wing, left-wing Twitter trolls. She posted an opinion piece on the broadcaster's website saying that it's overwhelmingly left-leaning Twitter users who are targeting ABC journalists for abuse. She goes on and says the most ferocious campaigns are reserved for any journalists who, in questions, even in the most anodyne manner, query the policies of Labor politicians. Have they come for you yet, Joel?
They come to me, Peter, on a regular basis, and I'll make a revelation on your program tonight. I throw the line out on a regular basis. I run a little contest. How many people can I have adversely reacting to my tweets? And that's sort of the measure. I was in a golf cart playing golf with my brother one day, and I picked up my phone and I had a bit of a chuckle to myself. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, just checking my Twitter responses, and I'm getting plenty of them." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, they've been critical of something I posted earlier." He said, "That's really weird." He said, "So your measure of success is how many critics you have?" I said, "Absolutely, because it's Twitter." So I think those who are subject to bullying might just want to have a think about turning it around. By the way, my record is 1,000. I'm very proud of that.
Well, good man. I have to say mine's a few more than that, but you are, well, we'll see. You're not Peta Credlin. Let's see what happens when you leave politics. You might be here on Sky News. Who knows? Joel Fitzgibbon, Campbell Newman, both of you, thank you for your time.